Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is more Devil May Cry demo, and this is an SSS rank on Underwatch, and it took me a couple of tries to get, because at the time of filming I did not know how to raise the style counter really quickly. After I got this, I read some forums, and to my horror, there is a really easy way of boosting your style meter, which makes getting the 3S's much easier, because you'll notice one thing about this game is combos and juggles don't seem to do shit. It's all about hitting as many enemies as you can at the same time with kind of new moves. But before I talk about Devil May Cry on a Devil May Cry video, I'm going to talk about something else, because it's my right to do so, and I just love YouTube sometimes, guys. It's one of those things where you can wake up in the best mood of your life, you can go through a handful of comments on YouTube, and immediately turn to being fucking pissed off. It is so good, it really is, and the cool thing about it is I'm at that point now where I really don't care. And it's not about caring about my channel, it's not about caring about my subscribers, it's caring about an opinion that goes against my way of thinking or goes against me directly as a person. And the reason why I don't care is I share my opinions, I share a lot of my personality on these videos, and it gives a lot of people 1,000,001 more weapons to use against me than I could ever have against them when it comes to, you know, the internet, because as we know, the internet is probably the most out of context place on the planet, yet it always gets personal, almost immediately personal, even though it's the most impersonal form of communication. And there's a lot of subtle ironies to that and various other things, but like this morning, for instance, is a good example. On one hand, I've had a comment basically saying that I swear out of context because I don't know how to do it, and the only reason I do swear is because I think it makes me sound grown up. So I should stop making shit guides and go and suck on my mother's tits. And you know, there's a part of me that would normally tell that guy to go die in hell and, you know, find out where he lives, tracking through Google Earth, and then go and murder his entire family. But that's just, you know, I don't care. That's the funny thing. I really don't care. It's amazing. And it's funny that people should say things like that, because who are they again? Are they this emissary of this great authority that knows something different than everybody else? I've nearly got 4,000 people that completely disagree with this person, yet he wants to share his opinion. And it's like, all those views on that video and only one cunt. We did well that day. And on the flip side of that, I've got something that's supposed to be constructive coming across as just not so much condescending, just annoying, really. Because I've put up some potential intros to show people, and each of them are decently designed from a principles standpoint. They do exactly what they need to do. Sure, some of them need to be trimmed, as a lot of people have noticed, but essentially they are high quality designs. And I've got somebody who wants me to instead use a COD montage for a montage because he thinks it'd be more original. And it just goes to show the depth and, you know, the diversity of YouTube comments. And I don't know, it brings me to this thought that we're all entitled to an opinion, but, you know, an opinion to me is kind of like a sneeze. Just because you have it doesn't mean you need to share it. And a lot of the times it's easier to say nothing. That's what I don't understand. But that's the cool thing about the internet, is everybody thinks that they're why it's there. Everybody thinks that they're the sole reason for every suggestion, for every conversation, for everything. And I suppose that's good in some places, because everybody wants to be the hero in their own, you know, in their own movie, in their own story. But when you're asking for objectivity and you're getting personal, and then you're conversing with people that don't seem to have a single context of what the fuck personal and objective is when it comes to an opinion, it can just be a little difficult. And don't worry, folks, this has nothing to do with a maturity. As my new favourite commenter has mentioned, if you swear you think you're mature, which is not true at all, because people swear from being children. I swore from being children. I taught half my school to swear because I saw like a fucking early 90s film that had nothing but swear words in it. And I wasn't doing it because I thought it was mature, I was doing it because it was taboo. The sole reason for swearing is shock value. But, you know, a more educated man than that fucking mongoloid would know that. But, yeah, unnecessary rant. Got it out my system. I could go for days, but there's only a certain percentage of people that enjoy it when I start getting extremely nasty. And I'm one of those. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the game. So the more I play this game, the more I see problems with it, but at the same time, I'm still enjoying it, so I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon of everybody that's hating on it. Because I don't think it's as bad as people say. It's got problems. I don't think it's to the same fidelity of a Capcom-made Devil May Cry, and that's definitely a sad thing. But at the same time, it does what it does well enough for it still to be fun. And people seem to be taking that a little bit too literally for something. Like I used to frequent a pretty hardcore Devil May Cry forum, and I checked it the other night to see what people were thinking about this game, and it was just brutal. Like, these people were dissecting frames. Like, you think I get technical when I start talking certain mechanics? Well, these people were dissecting frames and saying how shit it is because of said frame. Which to me is madness, and a lot of the things they've said is completely valid. The Osiris is too weak, the Arbiter is too strong. You know, the enemies, even on this difficulty, don't attack frequently enough, and they don't attack fast enough for them to be very dangerous, which is why it's quite easy to not get hit that much. And I get hit mainly by the flying things, and by either getting smacked by something that sneaks onto the screen, or smacked by a guy like this who has a shield. Because every so often I struggle breaking the shields, when it's actually not too difficult to do. Usually you can grab them with the whip, or do a heavy attack. Or even shoot them with the guns can work sometimes. Other criticisms that they've levelled at it is it's too easy to stay in the air, which is extremely true. In fact, there are times when I'm trying to press a button and my brain just doesn't register, and I end up spamming something, and I'm in the air for weeks. Like, that pickup there, that move is so ridiculous. You can stay in the air forever if you spam that. Same with the whips. The whips are so easy to keep you in the air. It kind of, you know, it's kind of condescending in a way to how difficult it used to be, and it didn't used to be that difficult, but it was definitely a sign of skill. On this game you can mash and stay in the air rather easily. So I agree with that as well. There's no taunt, which pisses me off because I love the feature of the taunt on the old game. There's no run. That's definitely a nuisance. There's, you know, the whole no lock-on thing is my biggest concern with the game, purely because moments like this, when I'm trying to lock onto these flying things and I'm hitting everything else, and the camera doesn't help, the no lock-on feature, but also the moveset is limited because there is no inputs. Like, the only inputs you have are on the Stinger and the Stinger derivatives, and I don't really like doing them because they involve knocking the analog in a direction twice, and that's just not something that I think is very intuitive at all. It's not something I enjoy to do. I mean, I don't know. I really like the game, I do. I think it's a fun game with flaws, and I think it's a fun Devil May Cry game. Everybody seems to think it's a fine action game but not a Devil May Cry game, and the only thing I can go off of that I think where it falls down under the Devil May Cry umbrella is the combat. Because the old games had so much depth, because the old games had, you know, such an expertise when it comes to the nuance of the combat. This game has a high level of like nuance to it, but it's nowhere near the same. And it's mainly because it's been simplified, and it's been simplified to appeal to a much broader audience. Which I don't blame them for doing, because, like, critically and commercially, Devil May Cry 4 did not do that great. Like, the combat on that game was fantastic, but everything else was absolute shit. And a lot of people that tried that game hoping to get into Devil May Cry were hoping for a really good game, and what they got was a fantastic combat system in a game which was lacking, you know, bad level design. Half the levels were recycled from earlier, but just going in a different direction, you know. One character for half the game, another character for the other half, and one of the characters was significantly easier to use than the other. It was a real mishmash of elements, and like, I can remember the reviews for Devil May Cry 3, because they were all saying it was too hard. And they were all stunned, and I think they actually used this as a scapegoat, because what happened is, I don't know if you know this, the Japanese version was easier than the European and I believe the American version that came out. So normal on the European and American version was hard in Japan. And we all know that the Japanese gamers are probably the best in the world, mainly because, you know, they're made of straw and they don't age, they never die, and all they do is play games. And what that allows them to do is to get really good at these fucking games. And if they had an easier version and we had the harder version, what hope did we possibly have to succeed? And I think a lot of people use this as a scapegoat or an excuse to be bad at the game. Because Devil May Cry 3, don't get me wrong, when you first play it, is absolutely brutal. Especially if you're new to the game, it's gonna rip you a new one. It's extremely difficult, but you do get better at it. You do learn, and you can get to the point where it's not so difficult. And none of these reviewers did, so they just chalked it off as, you know, game's too hard, and it got slated a lot for that, but praised a lot for everything else. Especially after 2, because after 2 you could have polished a turd and put it in a tux and got a better score. But that is the SSS. It's not perfect, but I'm going to change that probably soon. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for enduring my little rant at the beginning, and you take care now.